When did you decide to fight fire with fire? I was 17 when my mom Janet got fired from Millie's Grill. She'd worked there for 11 years. Early shifts, doubles, even Christmas morning when nobody else wanted to come in. Everyone called her Mama J because she brought homemade chocolate chip cookies every Friday and always had quarters for the parking meter when coworkers forgot. Mom was the type who'd give you her last dollar if you needed it. She once paid for Tony, the line cook's insulin, when his check was short. She picked up Lisa from the bus stop every Tuesday because Lisa's car was busted. She covered shifts for people's kids' birthdays and doctor appointments. But when Mom started getting dizzy spells and had to go to the ER, Don, the owner, said she was being dramatic. When she missed one weekend shift to get an MRI for her headaches, he told her, maybe this job's not for you anymore. By Monday morning, some 19-year-old named Becca was wearing Mom's apron. No warning, no severance, just tossed her out like yesterday's coffee grounds. I was so angry I could barely see straight. Mom just sat at our kitchen table crying, saying, I should have pushed through it, and I knew I shouldn't have called in sick. She wouldn't fight it. She was too tired, too sick, and honestly too used to people treating her like garbage. But I wasn't. I didn't post angry stuff on Facebook or march into the diner screaming. I got smarter. I started hanging around Millie's more often, ordered coffee, chatted with the staff, asked how things were going, listened real close, took mental notes about everything I heard. Turns out Don was a bigger piece of trash than I thought. He pocketed tips when he thought nobody was looking, paid the cooks under minimum wage and told them to deal with it. The fire exit was blocked by boxes half the time. When Marcus the dishwasher slipped on grease and twisted his ankle, Don laughed and said he was probably faking it anyway. The place was falling apart, and Don didn't care as long as money kept coming in. Then I got an idea. There was this newer cafe called Sunrise right across the street. Better lighting, cleaner floors, actually decent coffee. They were hiring and paid $2 more an hour than Millie's. Plus, they didn't treat their workers like dirt. I applied and got hired as a barista. Then I started talking to Don's best people. First was Amy, the head waitress who'd been there 6 years. She was tired of Don yelling at her for things that weren't her fault. I mentioned how much better Sunrise treated their staff, how we got actual breaks and nobody screamed at us. Next was Carlos, the weekend baker who made amazing muffins but got zero credit. I told him Sunrise was looking for someone with his skills and would actually put his name on the menu board. Then Tony and Jake from the kitchen. They were sick of working in that hot, cramped space for almost nothing while Don drove around in his new truck. It took me 2 weeks to convince all 5 of them. I didn't pressure anybody, just planted seeds and let them see how much happier I was at my new job. Saturday morning came, breakfast rush at Millie's, their busiest time of the week. 5 people didn't show up. I watched from across the street as Don ran around like a maniac. He tried calling everyone, screaming into his phone, even put on an apron himself, which was hilarious because he hadn't actually worked a shift in years. Around 10:30, during his smoke break, he looked across the street and saw them. Amy taking orders with a smile, Carlos setting fresh muffins in the display case, Tony and Jake laughing while they cooked actual good food. Don marched over, his face red as a tomato. What the hell is this? I was wiping down tables near the door. I looked up real innocent. Morning rush? Want some coffee? You think this is funny, kid? No, sir. I think it's business. You fired my mom because she needed medical help, so I helped your best workers find better jobs because they needed better treatment. Don was huffing and puffing like he was gonna blow the building down. But what could he do? Sue people for quitting? Report us for offering better wages? Your mother was unreliable, he spat. My mother worked 11 years without calling in sick once until she got dizzy spells. Your definition of unreliable is pretty messed up. He stomped back across the street empty-handed. Within a month, Millie's was in freefall. Their Yelp reviews tanked because the new staff Don hired had no clue what they were doing. Health inspectors showed up twice after people got sick. The coffee was terrible. Orders took forever. Meanwhile, Sunrise was packed every weekend. Amy was training new staff. Carlos got promoted to head baker. Tony and Jake were making actual living wages. Mom found work at a medical office where they gave her insurance and sick days. Real